Greetings, Planeswalkers, and welcome to our first ever Q&A live stream for Magic Legends, the persistent online action RPG set in the Magic multiverse. I'm Winter Mullenix, Senior Community Manager on Magic Legends, and today I'm joined by the one and only Stephen Ricosa, Executive Producer of Magic Legends.
How's it going, everybody?
So we released a state of development blog yesterday, and in that blog there was an announcement regarding our alpha phase of development. Could you tell us a bit more about that, Ricosa, and tell us what an alpha is?
Sure. I think people want me to go through and read that entire thing before we get to that part, right? Just kidding. Yes. So excited to announce that the closed alpha for 15 to 20,000 people is going to kick off in June. I won't be getting a specific date, but you'll hear soon enough. But what we're talking about for alpha for us is we have a lot of the features in and a nice slice of content and a few classes, and we're going to want people to play the game and see how the rewards go and how the economy feels and how it feels to level up your spells and level up your realm and all these other cool features and things that we've talked about, collecting artifacts and all of that. And we're going to do a couple of rounds of these closed alphas just to make sure that we get everything feeling good while you're playing. And then from there, when we have things we learned about the economy, things we learned about how you like to play, we'll then move into the beta phase where more people will be invited in, and they will be then vetting all that wonderful feedback and data that we gathered so that we can work towards that launch later this year.
Wonderful. So as far as an alpha and a beta go, how much does a beta differ from an alpha?
Depends on the game. For our game, the amount of content and things that are going to be in it will not change dramatically between the alpha and the beta. The quality will improve between the alpha and the beta, and the economy will be significantly more tuned between the alpha and the beta. So people might discover like, oh, it takes forever to level this spell up, or, oh, these colors of spells aren't as good as these colors of spells. Those are all the things that we want to learn. And then we will be making those adjustments. So when we get into beta, it is far more narrow, any changes that have to get made. So we'll be inviting more people to verify those changes. So.
All right, well, perfect. And I think that's a great explanation that serves as a perfect segue into the first question that has been coming from a lot of people. So I want to attribute it to anybody, but it's been coming from Twitter, Discord, and Reddit. When can players expect to get beta test access?
So for the closed alpha, it should be coming up soon for closed alpha, and then for beta, it'll be throughout the summer. We'll be having multiple closed alphas and multiple closed betas, and getting a bunch of people in there to check it out. So a lot of people have opportunities to look at the game before it's out.
Wonderful. Okay, so that takes us into our first question attributed to Wanderer's Gambit on Reddit. Thank you for the question. Are creatureless builds for people who want to sling spells and only spells a viable option, or are creatures too integral a part to avoid in the deck building process?
So you can do a full sorcery build. Sorcery and enchantments, you could just run with those and that would be totally fine. You have to find a good set of spells that will work that way. Creatures are super fun, but we wanted to make sure it was totally viable to just be like, nope, I want all 12 of my spells to be sorceries and just run with that and collect artifacts that encourage that type of play and reward that type of play. So yes, you could do a full sorcery build and just roll with that.
I personally really love playing the Geomancer and like building a nice red-green deck and kind of buffing myself and just being like that powerhouse. I just hop in there and then I unleash the sorceries and I just feel explosive and powerful. Love that.
That's a good combo. Those are good combos. I'm enjoying that as well. I've been playing a lot of the the closed alpha build before, as we're getting into there, and yeah, there's just so many builds that I've been loving to play. It's just kind of like as you're collecting spells, it just changes your options as you're building different decks and want to try different experiments. So.
Right. It's super exciting, especially after working on it for so long, to just be like, oh, it's coming together. So that leads to our next question, which comes from Moonstoner and his daughter, Dakota. So both of whom we met at PAX East. They're wonderful people. Thank you so much for joining us at PAX East. So will there be couch co-op or cross-play?
So there will not be couch co-op. But again, you'll be able to play online with people and team up and party in that way. And for crossplay, there won't be any at launch. It's still something that we consider. It comes down to platform holders and technology things. So we're not ruling out crossplay, something we consider for the future. Couch co-op is something we won't be able to swing.
Right. And an important thing to remember is that this is an online ARPG. It is a persistent shared world. Um, so players can actually hop in and play with one another that way. Um, Outside of that, uh, their other question was, what kind of PvP will be implemented at launch? Also, can you share any ideas you have for potential future PvP modes?
Sure. PvP is basically the entire paper card game experience. So it's something
Mm.
that we're keeping an eye on. And we know that PvP balance can be a concern. So something that we're starting with off the bat is going to be just the 1v1 duels and see how PvP and how the meta shakes out with the community instead of trying to assume and guess what it will be. The players usually let you know what the meta will be within a couple of weeks. So we're going to ship with 1v1, and then we have already been kind of brainstorming and talking about kind of signature multiplayer, multiple, 3v3, 5v5 style modes that we're looking at for updates down the line. So 1v1 duels in, and then evaluating kind of how the community plays, and then bringing that into some team-based PvP scenarios later.
Just as a quick heads up, I saw in chat that many people are asking questions. These questions were curated last week and over the weekend from Reddit, Discord, Twitter. We'll look at the questions at the end and see if there are any extras we can answer, but we've got a few that we've got set up for you. So the next question comes from Asthanar on Reddit. And they ask, can a planeswalker use more than just the color associated with their selected class? And can they use more than three colors or more?
So you can absolutely use colors not associated with your class. I've been playing one of my latest builds I've been playing in the closed alpha was a Mind Mage with a red-white deck, completely viable. You'll start off with a mono deck and you'll unlock multicolor pretty quickly. I'd say within the first hour or so. And then after that, you're kind of off to the races. Whenever you collect spells, you can customize and adjust. We are not releasing with triple color, but that doesn't mean it is something we'll never do, something just we'll do down the line. I think there's plenty of options with dual color and all your artifacts and again, the different classes.
Mm-hmm. And how will players unlock the ability to use more than one color?
Sure. So in your realms, which we talked about before in a variety of blogs, you will unlock multicolor mana through your library. So as you're going through the tutorial, it's actually pretty quick. Again, it's got to be less than an hour. You're running through the game. We introduce you to your realm. You'll do some tutorialization, and part of the tutorial is unlocking multicolor mana. So you'll do it, again, pretty quickly in progression. And then as you start traveling to new regions and planes, start unlocking those extra colors, you can immediately begin experimenting with your deck.
Wonderful. And one important thing to note is that in these early phases of development, we will be collecting feedback, seeing what all of you feel about the dual color system, so on and so forth, and kind of work from there to see, where that leads us. Let's see. So the next question comes from Ogre Fiend on Reddit. Are there any chance for dual color cards? Also, an elf archer creature that's permanent.
Yeah, there will be dual color cards. They'll be more rare, but they will exist and they'll do cool things, very specific things, because they won't have typically generic mana costs associated with them. But I think that's a cool avenue for us. And then what was the other part?
The other part was also, is there a potential for an elf archer creature that's permanent?
As permanent as any other creature, but yes, I won't spoil the specific spell, but yes, there are elf creatures that will stand with you and do cool elfy things. So yeah, they're awesome.
Elfy things are my favorite things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's see. So this also echoes a sentiment from Neelock on Reddit as well, who said that they want to know all about the inclusion of archery, how much of it there'll be in the game. All we can say is stay tuned, keep an eye on our socials. We've got so much to tell you over the next year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so our next question is a bit of a doozy. It comes from Big F Monster on Reddit, and it regards the endgame content. What is the plan to keep players in the game for years on end and make it worth their time for playing?
Sure. So at launch, we plan to have a good amount of content, but with a lot of progression systems that have a lot of good rewards that want to keep you playing. So, unlocking artifacts and spells through your realms, unlocking spells through the content that you play. Rolling around the overworld and finding artifacts, trying to find your artifacts, then leveling those things up. And then, of course, because we are a persistent game and because we are a live game, we'll be having regular updates with new content to play, new spells to collect, new artifacts to find. And I think we touched on it a little bit with difficulty modes, just a little bit. The cartographer part of your realm will be doing something with that. We'll be talking about a little bit later. But there are a lot of things that will be in at launch and a lot more things that are in the works to keep you engaged, to get new planes to go to, new classes to play, a lot of exciting stuff.
Awesome, yes. And remember, this is an online game, so working with your friends to overcome challenges, gather resources, progress your character in different ways, that'll always be an activity that you can undertake yourself or shared. So there'll be a lot to do. Our next question comes from El Arquitecto on Reddit. I said it correctly, I think. How story driven is the game? Is the story just a backdrop to justify the action and gameplay? Which is the main focus? Or is the story a major focus of the game? Are there going to be any compelling story choices we get to make? And will Oko be banned at launch?
Oko will not be banned at launch. We love Elk. It's going to be fantastic. But no, it's the story is kind of an important part of the game. We're working with Wizards to make sure that it kind of fits within the canonical lore that we have. So the story is important, but I would say that it's not necessarily a story-driven game. Every piece of content has a story, and the story all ties together. And we're kind of telling, I don't want to get into spoilers, but we're telling a very cool story across the different planes. So if you are a longtime Magic fan, I think you will get a lot out of it. You'll meet characters and locations and things that you've known from the card games or from the books. If you're not a Magic person, it's kind of a nice introduction if you're just here for the gameplay. So the story will be present and it will be enjoyable, and it fits into the canon and the lore that Wizards has worked out. But as far as choices go, this won't be the kind of game where you're making a choice and one thing happens or the other. But we are telling, I think, a pretty fun story that will grow over the first year. We kind of looked at our first year of updates and have planned out kind of an arc for what you're going to be seeing that ties in very heavily with what you're going to be seeing at launch. So it's very exciting.
Oh, the places you'll see. I'm super excited. Okay, that leads to our next question, which has come from several people on Reddit, Discord, Twitter. They've asked about the level of player avatar customization we'll see. We haven't spoken much on this yet, and we don't have a lot we can share on this topic yet since we're still in early development. But did you want to touch on this, Rakosa?
Yeah. Above and beyond all the stuff you can do with your character, right? So customizing your class and your artifact loadout and your deck, and all the other things that we've kind of talked about. We are spinning up work on, costume customization and things like that. So it is something that we're looking at, something we're working on, so people aren't looking identical. But there will be more information later and a breakdown later in the blog. For my alpha people, don't expect that to be in there, but it's something that's getting active work right now.
Very true. And one important thing is classes are not gender locked. So that is confirmed. I know a lot of you have been asking about that, so just wanted to get that out there. So question 9, we're starting to get into some of the Twitter questions now. It comes from Draconis79, and they ask, what platforms will Magic Legends be coming to? If multiple systems will crossplay in, will there be crossplay, and can characters be carried over? We've already touched on crossplay. But is there anything you'd like to add regarding systems and platforms?
Yeah, so I think we've talked about it before, but we're going to be dropping on PC first a little later this year. And then next year, we'll be dropping on current generation consoles. And then we are evaluating the next generation consoles that are dropping this year.
Wonderful. Okay, and a few of you in chat have been asking about a Nintendo Switch version. I don't believe that is on the plate for us at this point in time. Uh,
Currently not in the works.
Currently not in the works. Okay, so question 10. Let's see. This comes from Pants Moose. I love your name, by the way, on Twitter. Just how many Planeswalker classes are you planning to have or planning on having to allow the trait system to have a good feel? We are focused on development right now, but we'll provide more details on um, in-game cer- in-game stuff later on in the future. But in the meantime, what can you tell us about the Planeswalker classes?
Sure. So we're shipping with 5, one for each color. And then there will be more classes released later, kind of earnable and unlockable in a variety of ways that we'll get into in further blogs and updates down the line. But we want to regularly add classes to the game, which helps with the trait system, but also they're just fun. It's just fun to play different classes. They play so differently.
And we covered it in a blog, but what exactly do classes bring to the player experience?
Sure. So classes, they kind of bring a series of passive abilities that kind of exemplify the color. For example, geomancers. Um, a sorcery cast by a geomancer does more damage than a sorcery cast by a mind mage. Similarly, a control spell cast by a mind mage controls better than if that same spell is cast by a geomancer. In addition to kind of these passive things that really provide a lot of flavor for the class, class have progression. So you're going to unlock kind of things to make them better, along with a trait that you can bring to any other class. You're also going to have a series of abilities. These are, you kind of think of these as at wills that you'll have available all the time. So you have your spells, which do most of the work, but then again for the geomancer, you'll have her primary ability is punching with kind of rocky fists, and then secondary ability is a big explosion that comes off of her, a PBAOE, and then her utility ability is a dash that ends in a little explosion because it's red and explosions. So all of those things kind of encompass a class. So it's a way that you play the game. It's so the same deck with a different class plays very differently. So a different class adds a lot to the game.
Awesome. Thank you for that explanation. And it's so cool to look at the classes that our team has made and just see how they're inspired. They're completely unique, but they're inspired by famous planeswalkers that we all love. And on that note, some people in chat are asking about the more famous planeswalkers. Can they expect to see the more famous planeswalkers? Not specifically these ones, but for example, Vraska, Liliana.
Sure. I think we've got a couple of kind of the big names in there, and maybe some more. A couple of the big name planeswalkers in there for launch, and many of these named planeswalkers that you know and love coming in all of our regular updates. So yes, you will be definitely meeting characters that you know, and above and beyond planeswalkers, we are going to have characters that you know in the game from the books, from the cards. It's pretty exciting, especially if again you're a big Magic fan.
It is super exciting. Okay, so that covers most of the questions that we received on social media. Outside of that, several players have asked about leaderboards, player guilds. Are there plans for guilds or leaderboards, Rakosa?
Yeah, so we're looking at some kind of very initial implementations of guilds for players. So you can form groups, have a chat channel, things like that, and then we'll look at expanding those later in modules, again based on popularity and how much people enjoy guilds. So I think that's good. We've been evaluating leaderboards. We think those are something very popular. So it's something we have targeted. It may make it for launch, it may make it an update, but we are interested in getting leaderboards into the game.
Wonderful. And yes, as we touched on earlier, PvP is kind of the base card game experience, and it is something that we are looking into and actively working around. So that covers all of the questions that we received, but we're still getting a lot of questions in chat. Let's see. So is there going to be an NDA with the alphas or betas?
Yeah, so there's going to be an NDA for the alphas. So those will be kind of closed down as we, do a little more solidification on performance and get all the rewards working appropriately. But I think the closed beta, the current plan is that those are not NDA'd.
Okay, cool. And one important thing to remember is the reason the NDA exists is because alpha does not necessarily reflect what the final experience is going to be. So if, say, information is leaked or anything like that, it's not necessarily indicative of the final experience. And that's very important to keep in mind because development is a very complex and constantly moving beast. So let's see. Conmai says elk confirmed.
One of these
Okay.
days. One of these days.
Jen Andrade asks, will we see versions of events, spells, and creatures exclusive to events?
We're working on our events and event system now. It is likely that you might see spells or artifacts or other cool things that are exclusive to events for people that play them in the moment. Though there may be ways to earn or unlock those events or those rewards a little later down the line. But yeah, I think that those are very cool things that people can earn and unlock just by playing in events.
Okay. Mhm. Okay. We have to go ahead and finish up for now. Thank you so much for all of the questions. Let's see. Is there one more we can answer? Is the beta coming on consoles or COSA?
No, right now the closed alphas and the betas will be on PC only. We'll evaluate whether we do consoles betas as we get closer to console launch.
Okay, perfect. So thanks so much to everybody who took the time to ask questions, stop by. This concludes the stream for the day. However, there's still a lot for us to talk about. Next month, we'll be revealing more on our AI director, how it plays in a moment-to-moment combat, as well as the design processes for Benalia, Shiv, and more. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Be a Magic Legend and join us on Discord via the link at playamagiclegends.com. Several members from the dev team, including myself, are there, and we're always happy to chat and listen. Until next time, Planeswalkers.
See you in the multiverse.